Okay, moving on to the title race picture as a whole, as you alluded to there, Liverpool drop points again. I suppose that's keeping Arsenal clinging on. We've spoken about, how they need to win all these games and close that gap. The frustration is obviously that you're not taking advantage of Liverpool dropping these points against Newcastle and then Fulham. But I think you've mentioned it earlier, it's keeping Arsenal clinging on. So for you, they're still just about in the title race, are they?
Yeah, they have to be. I mean, I thought they were still in it before last weekend, and they're not further behind now. So I don't see how I can't say they're not in it now, but they won't be in it unless they find a way to improve this form and quickly. So you look at Chelsea, and Chelsea have got all the momentum at the moment. That's where Arsenal kind of wanted to be, or certainly when I looked at this run of results, run of fixtures, you felt Arsenal have a real opportunity here to get some momentum, and it started well. They'd started scoring goals, they started winning games. But then this last week, Fulham and Everton has just ground that momentum to a halt. And if it would have been so different if they'd got 6 points from those two games, they'd be breathing down Liverpool's necks now. They'd be you can just imagine the atmosphere around the place would be completely different, and they'd be really buzzing for what's to come over the festive period. But now you've got that air of frustration around the club again, and the momentum's died down. You've seen Chelsea steal a march on them, seen Liverpool drop points and not take advantage. So the next few games are really, really important for Arsenal. Obviously, you've got the cup game in midweek, and then you've got Palace again in the league at the weekend. You just got to get back and start winning these games, because we don't know what's going on with Liverpool at the moment. They have dropped a couple of points in recent games. Will that impact their momentum? Could they lose? Could they, is there a defeat just around the corner for Liverpool? You just don't know. So you've got to stay believing that you've got an opportunity. There's a long way to go, but Arsenal have to play better than they've played in the last 2 weeks. You can't continue to struggle to break these teams down. You've got to find a way to do it, because the games will just drift away, and it will happen very, very quickly.
Yeah, I feel the manner of the draws has been a bit different between Liverpool and Arsenal. The Liverpool ones have been sort of rousing. Okay, glad to get away from there with a draw against Newcastle away. If you offered Liverpool fans a draw at half-time, they probably would have taken it, how bad they were in the first half. Against Fulham, down to 10 men and 1-0 down within 17 minutes. A draw in that game, they could have gone on to win it, is a decent result. Whereas the Arsenal ones feel like they've been very deflating, and games that they definitely should have won, and just sort of sucking all that momentum that was straight after the November break. All that momentum, as you said, is now just sort of ended, whereas Liverpool still feel like they've got a bit. But yeah, I take your point on that. I think that the numbers are sort of, as well as the other teams, Liverpool and Chelsea, if we still put in City in that conversation, I don't think we can at the moment, but the numbers also are going against Arsenal at the moment now. The maximum Arsenal can get is 96 points, whereas in the Guardiola era has taken, or the champions have got 94 points to win the title. So there's such little margin for error now for Arsenal. Realistically, you have to go at maybe 100-point pace for the rest of the season to do that. Obviously, this season looks like shaping up a bit different. It might not take 94 points. Last couple of seasons it's taken, I think it's 90 the average. But I mean, the numbers are stacking up against Arsenal as well now, aren't they?
They are, yeah. They've left themselves barely any room for error, and they can go on that sort of run. We saw it last season. It can happen. They've got it in them to go on that sort of run. They've done it in each of the last 2 seasons. In fact, the first one was when they started like a train for the first half, and then the second season they finished like a train for the second half. So they can put it together. But the signs of the way they're playing at the moment, it doesn't suggest that there's one of those runs just around the corner. They suggest there's going to be other drop points. So that's why I keep going back to the fact they've just got to find some sort of form, and very, very quickly, because you can't feel sorry for themselves. Liverpool is setting that sort of pace that it leaves you with very, very little room for error. I think the frustration thing for Arsenal, they're going to look back on these results. I think they've dropped points in 8 games so far this season. And you look back at those games and the way they've dropped those points, and it's just massive missed opportunities littered everywhere around them so far this season. And it's added to what's going on at Manchester City at the moment. Arsenal have been so good for the last 2 seasons, and they still haven't got themselves over the line because City have just been unbelievable in what they've produced. I think the added frustration for Arsenal now is they're seeing City all over the place, and yet it still doesn't look like they're going to be able to take advantage of it this season, because they've made their own mistakes and they've allowed Liverpool to have this lead that it doesn't look like they're really going to surrender. So I think that's just added to the frustration even more, is looking at what's going on at Manchester City right now.
Yeah, looking back at the last 2 seasons when Arsenal have challenged, was it 36 points at this stage last season, 43 was it? The season before that, as you said, started brilliantly. I suppose maybe from the outside looking in, an encouraging sign I would say is you look at these games they've dropped points in, and they're sort of individual games. You look at the Man City situation, and you can see they are a hugely diminished team compared to last season. Arsenal doesn't feel like that. It feels like they're still in the same situation, same sort of team, same strengths as they had last season. And it's just these individual games they haven't necessarily got over the line. And as we've discussed, maybe that's down to not having that clinical goal scorer who can turn those draws into wins. But it feels like they could go on a run like last season, whereas City don't seem like they're able to go on the run they usually go on. So potentially hope there still.
Yeah, maybe. I still feel like you talked there about the clinical goal scorer away, and obviously, look, I would love a clinical goal scorer, a top striker to come in. I just think that's going to be quite hard in January. Obviously, we've got January knocking on the door now. I still look at it and wonder if it's something else they need to add to their attack that's going to really change things. Another real sort of playmaker, mercurial type of guy who can just, like that Everton defence at the weekend. You could have had Erling Haaland playing at number 9 in that game, and I don't think he wins that game for Arsenal because the creativity wasn't there, the chances weren't being created for him. I still feel like you have someone, another real top quality option on the left hand side, to potentially play opposite Saka, or another player similar to Odegaard and Nwaneri in those central positions that can just do something out of nothing and win a game out of nothing, or create a chance for someone out of nothing. I still feel like that might be the better option in January, and then get whoever you get in the summer when it comes to your striker, because I just think it's going to be so hard to sign a real top quality number 9 in Jan. And yeah, that's what when I look at January, I just think maybe is there someone out there? Can you find yourself someone who's going to come on and just add that spark to that final third that can really turn things around? Whether that be a left wing or more of a playmaker, I don't know, but that's kind of where I am when I look at how Arsenal can improve for the second half of the season.